Look how small I am.
Well, because it's so sunk down.
I have to
This
put a.
bottle, like, right in
I'm gonna
front
have to
of your
put a.
face.
I'm gonna have to put a couch cushion in this chair, so I can sit up a little bit.
like a high chair,
Like a
or is it booster
child.
seat.
Look
A
at me.
booster seat.
I feel like I need. First of all, feel like yes, I need a booster seat. I need a booster seat and a cigar.
Boosters. Oh man, I want to kind of turn that a little bit.
I want a booster seat and a cigar, sir.
Actually, that's a little too obnoxious. Anyway, we're live. We've been live. I
Oh,
just
well
wanted to
then-
let them trickle in.
Lead us in, sir.
Just a moment. Okay. And welcome to the Barrel Buddies. I'm James.
And I'm BJ.
Welcome.
Laid back.
Keep going. Keep it going.
With my mind on my money, my money
Okay.
on my mind.
I don't know. I think that's the first time you didn't complete the intro.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm BJ. Welcome back to your weekly booze news and reviews.
There you have it. So, as most of you were with us, I don't know. That's just giving me anxiety because it's off at an angle.
Can we start over?
No,
I'm going to edit this out.
barrel.
I'm going to
No,
edit
keep
this
it in,
out.
Keep it in. Keep it in. It was all at an angle, tilted. We went down the rabbit hole of Scotch a little bit, and
We did.
So let me just
We're
tell
gonna
you.
keep going.
I want to talk whiskey news. So if anybody follows whiskey news on Reddit or on X or
Can you talk?
just news in general, oh boy, there has been Brown Foreman is cutting back production.
The
Some
glut.
distilleries are laying off and pulling back production because there's a glut of whiskey, and then that's kind of sparked and spawned a whole another slew of articles of it has whiskey jumped the shark. Is the whiskey fad over? Guys, this is perfect. Sit on that. We have been telling you guys this for months now. Like, I like how the news. Oh, there you go. Much better.
Get into this chair.
I like how the news has finally caught up to us because obviously we're big trendsetters.
Obviously.
And
Obviously, we know what's up.
they finally understand that, yes, everybody's moved on. And I think it's attributed mainly to one big thing.
Tell us.
And it's not so much, I think it's greed. I think that these NDPs,
the corporate greed,
there's so much more juice available, you guys. And these distilleries were aware of this bourbon 5 to 10 years ago. They knew that this was, this trend didn't happen overnight. Right. So,
5 years ago, they knew what they were doing.
They've been preparing, quadrupling, 10xing their production. Years ago, they knew about this. So what does that mean? It's a glut on the market. But what have they been doing? Raising prices. Everybody across the board has been raising prices. They've been trying to nickel and dime everybody for every last penny. And you even look at Pappy and how they artificially create hype by releasing less every year to keep the price high. It's just kind of case in point. Like, greed is they've kind of dug their own grave is what I'm getting at.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think you've said it perfectly. You've been watching this show for any amount of time. We have been telling you the news.
Yeah.
We've been talking about these large distillery expansions, not just expansions from building, but what it's been doing to the communities, about tearing down neighborhoods to make way for new rick houses, for new facilities, about changing the way that you're replanting oak trees for barrel consumption, about how you're changing tax structure. We have talked about this for years.
And what are they? And now they have a glut on the market. They have raised the prices, and now what is thankfully happening is people have stopped buying whiskey.
And let's just call it what it is. If you follow this show and you came from our friend Greg Manarino, the Robin Hood of Wall Street, a lot of this is going to sound so familiar because it is exactly what's been going on with the Fed and propping up markets. And what are they going to do? They're going to prop up the whiskey market, right? We're seeing this downward. So now let's squeeze it. Let's hold on to the juice. Let's squeeze
because they're not getting the sales. So they raise the prices.
We got to raise that price. And how do we artificially inflate the market We're going to raise the price. We're going to cut down on. We're not going to stop production, but we're going to cut down on release. We're going to hyperinflate the market. We're going to make sure that now it's high allocation,
or
you can't get
or
it.
Everything's now a limited edition. Everything's now a small batch, and they artificially claim it's like collectible, and they give it naming surrounding it that makes it seem that it's more valuable than what it is.
And we're going to talk about one of those tricks tonight. I didn't realize it until just this moment, but we're going to talk about one of those tricks tonight.
But one last thing I want to say is that, thankfully, these distilleries understand that. And remember, bourbon and whiskey has always been traditionally the like working man's booze, the cheaper,
the blue collar beverage.
Yeah, it was like always dirt cheap, where you could get like an amazing product for dirt cheap. And don't get me wrong, it's not everybody. Thankfully, we still have Wild Turkey. To some extent, we still have Jack Daniels, that, Elijah Craig, Evan Williams, that they've not been with the other trendsetters and have tripled, quadrupled, 4x, 5x their prices. They've increased slightly, but they're still within like a reasonable range. You can still get an amazing Jack Daniels single barrel rye, the green bottle, for like $70.
Or that gold label, the single barrel select.
Yeah. Rare breeds are still coming in at, affordable prices. Elijah Craig's, some of the barrel proofs are getting a little out of hand, over $100. That's stretching it. You gotta pull that back, EC. And they're on the shelves. I mean, the proof is in the pudding. Those barrel proofs just sit on the shelf now.
$100.
And then I'm not even going to start on my rant about toasted barrel proof BS, because you guys already know my opinion on toasted barrel.
We do.
And huge rant on the show. If you haven't seen it, go back a couple of episodes. I rant for a very long time about that. But anyway, there are some players in the game that have kept prices reasonable. Thank you to those distilleries, because I know all of you guys watch our show. So thank you, and shout out to the ones that are important, that are still giving a best bang for your buck, dollar-wise. Yeah. And with that, and kind of, the market trends and the winds shifting, we're going to move on a little bit, and over the next who knows how long, start talking about Scotch. We want to start introducing you guys to other things, because I know a lot of you have been here with us through whiskey and bourbon whiskey, and now we're going to start talking about Scotch whiskey.
Yeah, and Scotch whiskey is...
This smells really good, by the way.
It's got a great nose. It's got a
right
great
when you
nose.
pour it, like, whoa.
Yes.
Whoa.
And so what we have here for you tonight is we have the Glenlivet, the good old-fashioned Glenlivet 12, and I did just pour a sampling, a little splash of the Glenlivet 12.
Ooh.
And then we have what is replacing the Glenlivet 12, which is the base offering of the Glenlivet. We have the Glenlivet Founders Reserve, both coming in at 40% ABV, 80 proof, but a little different. You got 12-year, nothing less than 12-year aged juice here. And then we've got what's going to become, it's going to start edging out 12-year. It's going to become the base level. So 12 years all of a sudden going to become what was originally your base level, easily got Glenlivet product, to now this is the more easily got Glenlivet product. And it's kind of what we were talking about. We saturated the market. Now we're going to start saturating the market with a non-age statement or an NAS product. And we don't know exactly what's in it, but there's a lot of mixed reviews out there as to whether or not this is a good bang for your buck product, a great value, a good entry-level Scotch whiskey, or maybe is it the worst Scotch whiskey out there on the market? And we're going to try it and give you a good review on it, because the Barrel Buddies were the last honest review show.
Yeah, and I want to talk really quick. Some people are probably asking themselves, if they're new to Scotch whiskey, what's a Glenlivet? So, just a little bit background.
Is it an animal?
What is a Glenlivet?
How much does a Glenlivet?
So from our enemies at woke Wikipedia, the Glenlivet Distillery is a Speyside single malt Scotch whiskey distillery near Ballindock, Moray, Scotland.
Moray, yeah.
Any of my, I don't even know what you call it, pronunciations of Scottish areas are I'm gonna run into the ground.
So we're just gonna tell you, the more Scotch you drink, the more Scotch you sound.
Exactly. Anyway, it's the oldest legal distillery in the Highlands of Scotland, founded in 1824,
Wow.
And has almost operated continuously since. So it has been open through the Great Depression, and its only closure came during World War II.
Oh.
It has become one of the biggest single malt distilleries in the world. The Glenlivet brand is the biggest single selling malt whiskey in the United States.
Magical.
And the second biggest selling single malt brand globally after Glenfiddich.
Okay.
So today, the distillery is owned by the Chivas brothers, a subsidiary of Pernod Ricard, which I don't even know if I'm saying that right, which also oversees.
Do you love Chivas Regal?
I love Chivas. Chivas 18, Royal Salute. I think it's at 21. 18 in the 21.
Label. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Anyway, they produce 5,900,000 liters per year. The majority of this, enough for 6 million bottles, is sold as the Glenlivet single malt. And then the remainder is used in the rest of their blended whiskey brands.
Okay.
So over 2/3. That's crazy. That is wild. That is wild.
That's a lot of work that goes into that.
So a lot of history. They talk about that. 201
who's the
years
founder?
ago.
Who's the founder of this?
So the founder, well, there's quite the story here. So it looks like there's a man named George Smith.
That's right, George Smith,
who was operating an illegal distillery on his farm. And apparently, the royalty, I guess, some king got word of this and made a trip. And then apparently
the Bruce of Scotland.
No, I don't know who it was, but let me see if I can find out exactly who it was. But apparently, as the story goes, someone got wind of it. It tasted so good, they ended up changing the legislation and the rules behind, I don't know, acquiring a license or making it legal. And then they became legal, what is it, in 1826?
So it wasn't long before they became legal. So that's good.
And they had a few name changes. It looks like some guy named John Gordon Smith was also involved. But the reason is legal distilleries, they needed to have a license basically under the legislation. It was called the Excise Act of 1823.
Oh, those damn acts.
So yeah. So anyway, he was the first person to apply and receive a license to legally produce spirit in Scotland. It says the new Excise Act would end up being repealed, and threats were made against Gordon Smith. And apparently, so Gordon provided Smith with 2 pistols to be used to ensure that both his safety and that of the distillery. And apparently, they use that as some logo. You'll see these 2 like old timey pistols on their website or on their. Let me see if I can pull up the website.
The royal emblem of Scotland is all over this bottle, which is a thistle.
Oh, okay. All right.
And it does say George G. Smith.
Okay, so there you go. Is there any story on the bottle before I keep bastardizing this?
It says in 1824, George Smith established his distillery in the remote and wild location of Glenlivet. Here he found the perfect conditions to craft the definitive single malt whiskey. Through his timeless primeval valley run the icy waters of the river Livet. Its name, Smooth Flowing One, in Gaelic, reflects the Glenlivet's beautifully rich and elegant flavors.
Well, there you have it. That's a very cool. And so apparently they've gone through quite a few different names, and mergers. So it looks like George Smith died in 1871. His son took over, John Gordon Smith. He inherited the distillery. And then there was some back and forth with like ownership. And then the blender apparently tried to get sole permission to use the brand, who was Andrew Usher. And then apparently there was a distillery nearby that was called the Glenmoray-Glenlivet Distillery.
Well, we know about Glenmoray.
And then I guess they had a beef with Glenlivet because I guess the Glenlivet, to your point, is the name of it's a generic name.
Glen is
like water,
location.
Right? Smooth water.
It's like the Glen is a glen, right? It's a valley, and the Levet is the river.
Yeah.
So it's a location.
So it looks like Glenlivet Distillery merged with the Glen Grant Distillery in 1953 to form the Glenlivet and Glen Grant Distillers. Then they would go on to merge with Hill Thompson and Co. Limited and Longmore Glenlivet Distilleries in 1970 before finally changing their name to Glenlivet Distillers in 1972. It was then purchased by no other than our friends up north, Canadian Drinks and Media Company, Seagram's, in 1977.
Oh, hey, Seagram's.
Then they were purchased by Pernod Ricard and Diageo in 2000, with ownership passing over to them. And then the Glen Grant Distillery was sold to Campari Group in 2005. Pernod Ricard kept control over the Glenlivet and Aberlour single malt whiskey brands as well.
Oh, the Aberlour, okay.
And then in 2007, they took the award of the best-selling malt whiskey in the United States, the fourth best-selling in the UK with a 7% market share.
Wow.
And it is the world's best-selling second best-selling single malt whiskey. And they sell roughly 6 million, as mentioned earlier, 6 million bottles per year. It is a major stop on Scotland's malt whiskey trail.
Fact
of 7 working Speyside distilleries in the Strathspey, Scotland region. And
I was near there.
During the Glenlivet tour, I guess you pay a couple bucks and you can sample 3 of their famous products.
Well, we're going to have 2 of them tonight.
There you go.
Very nice. Thank you for that history lesson. So I will just say this. Back in the early 70s, so Scotch, I think it's important that we're talking Scotch, and I'm really glad that we're on one about Scotch whiskey, because you'd think that Scotch is this big behemoth of an industry in Scotland, but it's not. Scotch actually has struggled and struggles for a long time. We have all these Scotch distilleries that popped up, and some were really good and then died off and then got purchased, and they've kind of been cannibalized by other distilleries, and they come and they go. And it's kind of been this like struggling corporation level of industry that comes and goes. Brora died out, and now Brora's making a comeback. We've got this great Brora 21 that was part of the ancient malts of Scotland that we're like, oh, we're never going to get this again. They bottled up some old barrels. But now Brora is making a roaring comeback. And this is kind of the story of Scotch in the world, which is really, really exciting right now. Of course, Glenlivet, to me, when you think of Scotch, I think the Glenlivet is a Scotch brand that comes to mind. I don't know about you, but we grew up during a pivotal time in our comeuppance when the movie Swingers was coming out, right?
That was
a big drink at the time. Oh, any Glen will do.
And when I was probably in my early 20s, a lot of that was still kind of the trend. Like there wasn't, like, I think Scotch was kind of in with like the older crowd at that point in time.
Yeah.
So like whenever I would go out with some of my like older colleagues, they were always like, oh yeah, Dewars and Cutty Sark and Scotch. You're all big Scotch drinkers, or just happen to be in that type of circle. Because otherwise at the club at the point in time, there was like, this was like people just still drinking Incredible Hulks, vodka Red Bull were just big on the scene, Alizé. Like there really wasn't, Hypnotic. There really wasn't, and that was really it. And then you wanted to get fancy, you drink Scotch. So, that's all there really was at the time.
Dirty Tawaka.
I hate Tawaka, but Tawaka was kind of niche. And it was way after, like I wasn't around during like the Aftershock and Goldschlager times. That was probably like another 10 years.
It was a little before us.
Yeah. It was before us.
That was a little before
like,
us.
I know a lot of people say, oh, you're around like big when it was Aftershock was big.
No.
I'm like, no, that was 90s.
That
was 90 us. Clubbing.
We weren't drinking cans of the Club, if you know what we mean.
Yeah, there was the Club pre-mixed, all the pre-mixed beverages.
Well, sir, have a little water there.
I thought you refilled my... what did you pour first?
I poured the 12 first.
I don't know that you should have done that because I know that it's the superior product.
I don't know that.
Do we want to talk? Have we even discussed
We haven't even discussed it.
We need to get into
so
that.
You drink that. What I poured first here was the classic, the base offering. What was the base offering? The Glenlivet 12, a bottle where the youngest juice in that bottle is 12 years old. Everything else that's blended into that is older than 12. We know that for a fact. So what we have now is Founders Reserve. This is something that you said came out in what year? Look that up.
We had it. We had it. Hold on. And then I need to get to some chat.
I think
too.
2014 is when they started.
In 2014, they created the 1824 Glenlivet Founders Reserve single malt.
There you go.
It technically replaced the standard 12-year that was on the shelves. And it was branded to specifically honor founder George Smith.
And it even has his. So there's some cool things about this bottle, right? We like the Glenlivet Caribbean cask.
It's a lot of bullshit. I'm going to throw that out there. Like, it's a deceiving name.
It is, because when you think of something called the Founders Reserve, it sounds like
it's better than the 12-year
kicked up product. That is not necessarily true. So as we mentioned earlier in the show, no age statement. That means that we don't know the youngest amount of juice that is in here or the oldest amount of juice.
Right.
The general consensus is there's some pretty young juice in this bottle.
That is definitely general consensus.
It's good looking. I think there's a really good look here.
Yeah.
It says
I don't like clear bottles.
In 1824, George Smith established his distillery in the remote and wild. It's the same story.
Same story.
All right. It's got George Smith's signature across the front of it.
Okay.
Matured and bottled in Scotland. And that's all it really says. The same ABV. It's 40%.
Okay.
80 proof.
News about whiskey. Welcome. He's like, Scotch. So welcome to the show. Preston said, I think this is about my comments earlier. The independent bottlers have dwindled significantly as well, which is a blessing and a curse. So many little distillers have just disappeared, although the medium-sized guys are able to shine more.
Yep.
Yes, but I still think it goes back to, and I don't know if you've caught this show since the beginning of my rant, it still comes down to greed. I think that the industry as a whole has gotten incredibly greedy. It started with the NDPs. It then kind of moved on to, like, if you guys have noticed, there was like a glut of celebrity endorsed. Then it turned to that. Yep. I think the celebrity endorsements are where you would jump the shark, though, as a brand.
It started
once your market segment starts getting celebrity endorsed products, that's when you know it's time to hightail it.
And by people who have nothing to do with the business, right?
I mean, I know this is so contentious, but Beyonce should not be making a whiskey or have any involvement with a whiskey.
It's Chris Stapleton.
Chris Stapleton, a Traveler, is one of the worst things we've ever tasted.
He's a recovering alcoholic,
and
doesn't even drink, didn't even try it, and then he's going to put out a whiskey. He's going to put out a whiskey as a recovering alcoholic and be like, drink my product that I'm not even allowed to have. And it
was probably one of our worst whiskeys of 2024. It was so bad. It was really bad.
We're just going to call it that. It was bad.
It was terrible.
We understand that it was made to be a mixer in bars, and it was a name thing.
But it's so light and nothing. I don't even know what you mix it with. Water? Is that what they mean by it needs a mixer of water?
I don't know.
What you're mixing with it.
We didn't try.
Quite the marketing spin. Preston agrees with us about the Founders. But Founders sounds like it's an amped up version of it. It's going to be better than the 12-year.
But we know that it's not. And so this is where at the beginning of the show we were talking about it's kind of some marketing trickery. In a lot of markets, this has already begun to replace the 12, where the 12 is not even offered. In Canada, North America, United States, and in Mexico, you can still buy both.
Well, if you notice, that's a bar bottle,
right? Yeah, this is a liter.
It's a liter.
This is $7.50. And so they're saying, though, eventually, I think what the Glenlivet wants to do is that they'll probably squeeze the market. They're going to make the 12-year harder to come by. Obviously, it's already going to become harder to come by because they're not aging juice the way that they used to age juice. They're pushing product way faster because they're contributing to the same glut, and they're probably having the same problem because, let's face it, it's a global issue. It's not just a United States issue. So we're here to try this out. This is a very contentious bottle.
Yeah,
if
we're
you
going to
look
get to
online,
I'm gonna
mixed reviews.
Very, very apparent off the bat when you poured it. I get like no-nos like that 12.
When we poured the 12, it was jumping at you.
It was jumping at you.
Right off the table.
Let's see here. Preston says, celebrities don't know the product except The Rock. He does it well with Terramana. Yeah, okay. I've heard this. I haven't had it yet. Heaven's Door isn't bad. I will agree to disagree. I loathe and despise Heaven's Door, and the price point is so egregiously greedy and disgusting.
I haven't had it yet.
Is. Dos Hombres, Mezcal, the Bryan Cranston and Aaron,
Haven't had
what's
that
his
yet
face,
either.
Breaking Bad guys. The Mezcal's solid. I haven't had anything else by them, but every other celebrity endorsement is kind of a joke.
Okay.
I mean, I think everybody wants to just rinse and repeat the Casamigos, George Clooney story where he sells it for $1 billion and he doesn't need to act again ever, and neither does his children and his children's children.
But listen, you got to start hiding. If you want that, then you got to get the great marketing stories of hiding bottles in ice chests on golf courses, and knowing where to look to pour yourself an icy cold refreshment.
Yeah,
like that's to me what made him famous.
So first things first, like getting back to the nose, like
it's nice really, out of the glass.
It's okay, but I kind of get this like egginess. Like I get like a sulfuric.
I was gonna call it biscuity.
See, I think it's a little bit more soury than a biscuit. I know what you're getting at.
Pineapple.
I got pineapple and I got caramel, like
nice
kind
pineapple,
of creme brulee on the nose,
and some burnt sugar.
But this one, I can tell that there's going to be some hotness to this.
See, I don't know if there's some ethanol.
Cheers. Let's get into this.
Cheers, and cheers to all of you.
Cheers, friends. What are you guys drinking? Let us know in the chat.
But I do get you get the maltiness. You get that barley malt.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I really don't like the nose.
It's light.
It's a huge difference.
Light.
Yeah, and it has too much astringent qualities to it to really help it. Like I think because it's so light, a lot of the negative notes are more prominent. If that makes sense.
So I don't get astringency. I'm not getting bitterness or burntness. I'm not getting that. I do. It's very light to me.
Here's what I mean by that, though. Maybe I'm not using the right words. Oh, whiskey dog.
Cora.
Oh wow,
she really wants my attention. Hey, what's up?
Hey there, bet me. So what I mean by this is that I think that there's a harshness to it. It wants to be delicate, but I think that it's not aged enough to where the alcohol and ethanol has had enough time to go away, I guess is the right term, or to underlie under those delicate notes, to where the delicate notes all get muddied and washed out by a sulfuric funk. Like there's almost like,
Well, we do practice the 3-sip rule. I'm only now 2 sips into this.
Come here, Cora.
So I'll give you this. In my second sip, I do get what I'm going to call like an acidic soil flavor, like, gardening soil.
No, you're right. It is earthy. It's like almost a peatiness. There's like a acidic,
but it's
peatiness.
Almost like it's fake. Like the acidic quality. And when I say acidic, what I'm talking about is like almost a heartburn, acidic.
Yes, it's not a good.
It's not like coffee acidic, right? It's like a heartburn acidic, and it's to a point where it feels like it's a fake flavor. It's like a fake flavor that they added to this.
Mr. Anderson, welcome to the show. He says, "Latest party, cheers, everyone. Cheers to you as well." And Preston's suggesting that we cut it, and I did bring some cubes, so I brought some cubes.
I got a little water to cut this.
Water,
and especially with Scotch.
To do that. I'm going to ask if you can pour me a little.
It's important to allow the alcohol to expand a little bit with a little water, and so we're going to use a little water to cut.
I don't know if
we couldn't find the pipette to do a real drop here tonight
somewhere.
Yeah, it's almost like an artificial flavor to give it that earthy.
Boop, boop. I mean, it's
not awful. I will say this. I mean, on the pleasant side of things, if I had to pick out some pleasant flavors, okay, I'm going to pick out, there's a nice almond. I think there's a nice almond nuttiness. I think that there's a little bit of floral apple that's going on in the background, a little green apple. I don't get some of the flavors that I'd really like out of a Scotch, though. I'm not getting some sweetness. I'm not getting a good complexity with, some caramels and some vanillas and some of the barrel characteristics that I would love to find in this. It's a little one-noted.
Cutting helps immensely. And what that does is that kind of sulfuric, all those negative characteristics I was mentioning fall back, and it becomes sort of light and delicate. However, I don't understand what they're trying to go for here. Like, the 12-year is very powerful, and all the flavors in it stand out. It's like I can call out 4 to 8 different elements that I taste with this, whereas the Founders is a bit more just muddied. Like, it's like there's a lot of different
great way
clashing
to put it.
things going on, but it's more light and delicate.
Palate is a little muddy.
Yeah,
that's a good way to put it.
It's trying to define itself, but it's not there yet.
You're right, though. A little water, just a little bit of cut.
Yeah, it helps.
It brings out a sweetness. It does bring out like a cereal sweetness. That's nice.
And like you get that like peppery, black pepper.
The earthiness gives way, to a nice herbaceous pepperiness.
Yeah, it's like in a good way.
It is nice. It's a greener, I would say, and
it drinks super smooth. It's super smooth and easy drinking. I'll tell you that much.
The cut was Preston, right? Preston's.
Yeah. He said that. Yeah.
Good on you, mate.
Yeah,
good call on that. That was a good call. Not bad, actually. So let's talk price. What's the price point of this bottle?
Well, and here's where it gets interesting.
Okay.
Because here in Vegas, it runs $30.99 at Total Wine.
What?
I looked at some random other spots around town or around the country. Binny's has it for like $40. Some of the state-controlled stores had it for like $45.
Still not
so you're
bad.
looking at like $30 to $45 for this bottle. Where I didn't even look up the Glenlivet 12.
So you're gonna put the Glenlivet in your bar for about $40.
Yeah.
Okay.
But here's the crazy thing. So it's only $35.99 for the Glenlivet 12.
So really the question becomes, do you get the 12 or do you get the bottle that's replacing the 12?
That is a great question.
And I think it really is going to come down to your profile, to what you're looking for in what you like.
I don't think you should ever, because the price is so close, I don't feel as if there's ever any need to buy the Founders bottle. But my unfortunate thinking is that the Glenlivet is going to slowly pull back the 12-year to where it's just going to eventually go away.
I don't think it'll ever go away.
I see it going
I just think it's going to become highly allocated, and they're going to squeeze it, and it's going to become more expensive, and it's going to become, you can get Founders Reserve, which is our base product offering, and it's great, and we love it, and George Smith, he would love it. Or you can get the 12, which, no matter what, you're getting 12-year-old juice, and where else are you going to get 12-year-old juice? And I can see where this is going to start being a $50 bottle.
Yeah, that could be the play.
Right? This stays 30 to 40. This starts going 50 to 60.
It's so just unfortunate.
Because once you do that, then the 15 goes higher, the 18 goes higher.
Well, they even
the
have
21
a 14.
Goes higher.
They have a 14. Yeah.
It just lets you. It gives you the ability to start really pushing product higher. I'll
let you pour it because I don't know how much you want.
So now we got nose taste value on Founders Reserve.
Yeah.
You want to lead us off with some scores on that?
Yeah. So starting with the Founders nose, I'm going to give it a 1. And the reason why is because I compared it to that 12 that you first opened while I was giving my rant on bourbon, and I was like kind of blown away. I was like, whoa, like what did you just open and pour? So Thomas, the Founders Reserve, it's funny you mentioned that. Like we talked about it briefly at the beginning of the show. The Glenlivet 12-year is obviously a 12-year, right? The Founders, they specifically don't put an age statement on it. It's basically no age statement. And they claim that it's got it. They don't claim. our opinion is it's younger than 12-year-old juice, hands down.
It's
Would you say?
it's gotta be. I mean, it's not super old because it's not got that young ethanol-y sting that young juice has, but it definitely doesn't have the rest and the age that a well-rested barrel has. I mean, it might have some 12-year juice in it, but I think it's probably sitting closer to 6.
And are you saying you're thinking this 12 is going to become allocated? Preston does not think it's going to become allocated.
I'm sorry. I don't.
Was that what you're getting at?
I don't use the word allocated. I apologize. I mean, they're going to squeeze it, and they're going to probably make it feel like it's harder to get. I don't think they're going to do allocated.
So
releases,
limit
right?
distro,
but it's going to be limited
pull
distribution
to
be like, oh, do you have the Glenlivet 12? No, we're sold out of it right now. We're waiting for it to come in because they're going to start turning that tap down just a little bit and trickling it into the markets.
So that's a great. Uncle P is asking who dictates the price, the distiller or the store. So whoa, that is a show in itself. But in a brief. There's a lot of factors. I'll start with this. Depending on what state you're in, there are distilleries either have to do a few things. There's rules they have to abide by for every state in the United States. And I can only answer the United States. I know some of our viewers are from other areas of the world. Australia is probably a big one. Here's the thing with the variant states. Some of them are state controlled. So what that means is the distilleries have to sell to the state, and then the state liquor stores sell to the people.
And that's got tax implications.
In that model,
3-tier.
There's definitely a cost that's passed down to the consumer, and I'd say probably 20% higher. If you're in a limited state where the distillery can sell directly to the state or directly to the people, I think there's a handful of states that are in that boat. The distillery dictates MSRP. So they say manufactured suggested retail price is $30.99, let's say.
Yep.
In a state-controlled state, they might make it $39.99, so then they can make $8 a bottle. Then you have states like Nevada, which super contentious because we have a 3-tier system.
Careful.
Which they hold a lot of sway in the state, so I have to be careful with my words here.
Careful.
and so distillery sells to a distributor who sells to a liquor store who sells to a consumer. So you have another hand in the pot. And unfortunately, the states that have the 3-tier system then even have to, we have to pay even more than some states out there that are like Kentucky, I think is like straight distillery to consumer model. And obviously, and there's some states that are very, very generous. And during COVID, there was a lot of loosening of the restrictions and rules, and they were opening up. It seemed like it was starting to be a lot of distiller to consumer type sales online, etc. And then it all got shut down, and it actually got more restrictive. Nevada got more restrictive, especially on mail orders. Now you cannot order any type of spirit online and have it sent to Nevada. Wine is an exception. Wine and mead don't apply to this rule, but spirits specifically, depending on what state you're in, could be very strict.
Yep.
3-tier system, very expensive. State system, second, and then you have your distillery to consumer, which it's only one middleman. So there's different middlemen. Hopefully that explains it very briefly. It was a pretty good example. Pretty good explanation.
Yeah, so
right?
that's basically how prices get set. It depends on how many hands are in the pot.
Yeah, everybody's got to get their cut,
obviously,
right? And you think about Nevada, we were using all these casinos used to be ran by the mob, so and then, they still wanted their piece of the pie at the end of the day.
We've talked about it on past shows, but like, what happens if you don't sell to the suggested retail price, right?
Well, a lot of it's contractual obligations.
Yeah,
that's another thing.
You want these cases, you want these bottles, then you have to.
You got to sell.
Otherwise, you don't get them to sell.
Yeah.
Classic
example. They'll strong arm you.
Is Weller, right? If you want to sell Weller Special Reserve in those states where you are selling by the MSRP, then you're going to sell Special Reserve for $29.99. And if you are caught selling above that or gouging into it, then you don't get to purchase from them anymore, and you can't sell that product.
Or to even get the ability to sell that product, you have to sell what they call their core product, Wheatley, Fireball, just examples from like Buffalo Trace, Buffalo Trace.
You got to sell certain things.
That you have to sell certain things to even become qualified to then sell a base level Eagle Rare Blanton's Weller at a minimum.
So I'm going to pull us back to get your score.
Hank McGurk.
What's going on? Hank McGurk.
Not Fireball.
Hey, nothing wrong with Fireball. Stop it.
Hey, by the way, we're going to do this one of these shows. I have the Fireball
barrel aged
small batch. Speaking of using small batch terminology, Dragon's Reserve cinnamon whiskey rested with charred oak for a fiery smoothness bottle that we will be doing on a show soon.
So literally cannot wait.
So this is like, I don't know if you want to call it amped up or bougie fancy Fireball.
Oh, it's bougie Fireball.
But yeah, we will be
fire bougie.
On a show soon, we will be reviewing that.
So you said you gave the nose of the Founders Reserve a 1.
Yes, sorry. Okay, so Founders, I'm going to give the 1. On the taste, I'm going to give a 1.5.
Okay.
I just, especially now that I've revisited, my score actually went down. I was going to give it a 2, and then I revisited the 12, and
this is why I don't like doing these
comparison
shows.
So that's a 1.5, which is not looking good for Founders Reserve. And then value, I'm going to give it a 1. And the reason why is because look at, for $10 more, you can get a 4 to 5 times better product. It's crazy, in my opinion.
Okay.
So that right there is a 3.5. I'm not blown away. So I give a 35 out of 100 to the Glenlivet Founders Reserve.
3.5 out of 10. Okay.
Or a 3.5 out of 10. What do you give it?
So I didn't think the nose was terrible, but it sure wasn't anything to write home about. It was interesting. So I think that you have to get your nose into that glass. I think I'm going to give the nose a 1.5. The palate, where I'm struggling with is, do I go pre-cut or post-cut? And I want to be generous.
And you have to factor both. Go post-cut.
I want to go post-cut.
The best of the worst.
The best, yeah. And so I'm going to give the palate actually a 2.
Okay.
I think pre-cut, there was too many like weird things, and I think I understand what you were talking about with that.
Totally agree, Hank.
Sulfuric taste. I think
the añejo is very good.
Weird, that weird earthiness.
Yeah.
But I think that once you cut it, it becomes very palatable. I think it's actually a pretty decent drink. So I'm going to give it a 2. I think the value. Listen, for $30, $30, you're going to get a bottle of the Glenlivet. Would I gift it to anybody? No. Would I put it on my shelf for a nightly drinker? I mean,
no.
Maybe I wouldn't when I know that when I can get
for $10 more,
less than $10.
If this is like Payday Friday and I'm walking into
less than
XYZ
right?
booze store, and these two are on the shelf, it's a no-brainer what to get.
I'm going to give it a 1.5. So that's where
think about this.
1.5. I'm going to give it a 5. 5 total. I'm not blown away, so it's a 5 out of 10.
So think about this. Plus, these now if they only have these in bar bottles, so for 1 liter, you're getting 25% more product for $10 more, guaranteed 12-year minimum age statement.
You don't have to
4 to 5 times the taste.
You don't have to convince me that if I had my choice, right?
Facts.
But if we're giving a real review of the Glenlivet Founders Reserve on its own,
it's not awful.
It's not awful.
But shame on Glenlivet if their trend over the next 5 to 10 years on their product roadmap is to do as BJ mentioned, and this kind of goes away, and this becomes more prominent.
Yeah.
Because this is special. I think the 12-year is a defining product for the brand. It's an incredible price point.
Yeah, it's good.
It's very good for what it is. And someone did mention it earlier. This is a different label. So the 12-year that I have is different from I think there's a new redesign of the label. I'm curious for us to do a comparison with the new label versus this to see if either it's two things. A, this is a liter bar bottle, so maybe it's special label for the bar bottles.
Maybe.
Or if there is a taste difference.
Interesting.
With label change, potentially.
Well, we know we like older stuff better.
Yeah, so Hank, just to go over the prices again. So the Glenlivet 12-year that we like, $39.99, so $40.
Yep.
And then this Founders, which is no age statement, but you hear Founders Reserve and you think it's going to be amazing, is $30.99. Anywhere between 30 and 45. We see conflicting prices, but here in Vegas, it's 30, basically $31.
Not a bad price.
So not a bad price.
Scotch for $30? Not
That's
a bad
the
price.
thing. Like, and this is considered,
is Scotch for 37.
Would you consider this well? Is this well? Or it's a notch above well? Like if you go into a middle of the road local bar, is this going to be well?
I think you could make this a well. Yes, I think Founders Reserve could be a well.
I would agree.
A great well offering, and it would be if somebody told me, "Oh yeah,
like I want a Scotch and soda."
What's your well Scotch tonight? Oh, it's the Glenlivet Founders Reserve. Pour it.
Like at a all-you-can-drink bar, like
you go to a gala, right? If I went to a gala,
it's probably,
and instead of it being Dewar's White Label, and they said, "Oh, it's Glenlivet Founders Reserve." Oh yeah, I'll take that
any day. I hate Dewar's.
Sorry, Dewar's. I'm not a big fan of yours.
So what do you think you would find at an Applebee's well? Would it be this? It's a legit question. I'm curious on the answer too. We can find out tomorrow at lunch.
Yes, I love that plan.
We will find out that answer and report back next week.
That said, please, your call to action tonight. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at the Barrel Buds, plural. And if you haven't already, would you go ahead and click the thumbs up on this particular episode? Really helps the algorithm. If you've already clicked that thumbs up, as I've seen 3 of you already do, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. And
Cora appreciates it. We're going to use Cora as our
Scotch dog here.
Scotch dog.
Really appreciates it. If you haven't or don't want to click that thumbs up, well, we're sorry. We'll do better for you next week. And we really would also appreciate a little comment. We appreciate all the comments that you've given us tonight. And don't forget to share us, subscribe, and follow our channel. We really appreciate that. We're going to share it with a friend. And if you've already done all those things, then please, like I said, follow us at Instagram at the Barrel Buds. And Jimmy wants to show off.
I want to show
next week. We're going to be putting out for content.
So I have 2 of these bad boys.
That's the Donkey Kong barrel.
Throwing barrels. We're going to be throwing barrels, friends. So I have 2. I won't juggle them, but I have 2 5-liter barrels that we are a fresh new American oak,
brand new American oak,
charred American oak barrels that we are going to be conditioning with.
I'm so excited.
And I'll show the friends here because this is with I have a double magnum of a very popular mead from Garage East down in Florida. For our whiskey friends, you can kind of see the FOMO CYPM label because it's craft your perfect mead. This is a strawberry, blackcurrant, and raspberry mead. We're going to be conditioning the barrels with this mead, okay, till they're nice and juiced up with the mead. The mead will then be rebottled and given out as gifts to most of you guys and to our friends and other followers. Then we are going to be taking the 10 bottles that I have sitting around of Nevada's finest Frey Ranch single barrels.
And we do mean that as
no, we love Frey Ranch. We have so much of it. I have a glut of Frey Ranch. For example, this one's coming in at 63.36%. Wow. Straight bourbon whiskey from our friends up north in Frey Ranch, Northern Nevada.
Hey,
we're going to be taking
we'd like to do something with you.
So this bourbon whiskey is going to go into those drained mead barrels for probably like 6 months, 3 to 6 months.
Yeah,
I guess is going to be the turnaround time.
And then we'll bottle that.
And then we're going to bottle that. And then that whiskey's going to be bottled for friends, families, and followers of the show. So when are we going to start we're recording the process?
We're going to start recording the process of barrel conditioning this weekend.
Yeah, so this weekend.
We'll probably start, or no, maybe tomorrow even. So that's going to really start to get captured and posted on Instagram. And then I'll start cobbling together some show elements this weekend. Yeah.
Yeah, so you don't have to be hard pressed to, wait for the show to go live, but we'll post it. Part of the conditioning process. We'll post something. So be on the lookout. Most of you guys in the chat will get bottles. We'll talk about it down the road here as the months go on. Yeah. So, and I just got like a splinter from big ass splinter.
Is that what made you bleed
wood.
before the show too?
Yeah, because I grabbed the barrel, so I was bleeding on my one finger that I got all over my trackpad, and now I have a massive splinter in my
we gotta get water in those barrels. Jesus. Those barrels need to soften up with a little.
No, these barrels
liquid.
are. We need to get them conditioned and ready to go. Anyway, so there you have it. There's Glenlivet. There's what we got around the corner. Anything else?
Glenlivet. I think that's it. So Jimmy, lead us out.
For the Barrel Buddies, I'm Jimmy.
And I'm BJ. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
And it's crazy because now we got everybody rolling in. Drew showed up. We got the whole crew here.
Thanks everybody.
Ranting.
We started. We do our live shows on Wednesday, starting at 7 p.m. Pacific. We'd love for you to join us every Wednesday, 7 p.m. Pacific. And if you can't join us, we're always here on YouTube.
Anything else? Do we have anything else? Why we do a little after show?
No, because I regret that I have to keep going. If you want to keep going, you can. But I actually have to get. I have to get moving along.
We're gonna cut it. We're gonna cut it, and not like Cuddy Sark, but
I love the Cuddy Sark. You know that's a real ship.
I know it is.
It's in London, England.
We'll do a Cuddy Sark show now that we're going down. Scotch,
I want to go there.
The Scotch rabbit hole.
I tried to go there. That's where the GMT. That's where the GMT line is. It's in this park, and the Cuddy Sark is in the park. And I'm a poet, and I didn't know it.
Wow! Look at that! Look at you busting the rhymes out. Anyway, all right, we're not going to stick around. So for those that are local to Las Vegas, a handful of us will be at Corey's here in Vegas, our local watering hole tomorrow for Lucky Cat Barbecue, which we will see if it is as good as everyone says it is.
Come out and second round. Favorite Barrel Buddies.
Yeah, and come out and have some beverages with the Barrel Buddies. So we're going to be hanging out over there probably around 5 p.m. I would say it'd be a good time.
And some fresh smoked brisket.
I want to expand. I want to try something else on the menu. So I don't know that I'm going to do the brisket.
I missed it last week. So
you're going to need to get brisket.
I'm brisketing tomorrow.
So join us at Corey's if you're local to Las Vegas, the one and only over here in Eastern and Silverado. And for the rest of you, we will catch you next week. So take care. Bye-bye.